Welcome to the Great Reboot. I'm Tori Ryden. Well, we're about 4 months into COVID-19 here in the US, and chances are pretty good your nerves have frayed. Have you lost it on anybody yet? It's really hard to keep your cool. It's hard to embrace kind of the positive pieces when you're still either quarantined or you're behind a mask, which I hope all of you are, still practicing wearing your masks and social distancing. But it's really hard to embrace the positive pieces. In the Bible, the 7 heavenly virtues are faith, hope, charity, fortitude, justice, temperance, and prudence. And sometimes during this very difficult, weird time, it's hard to embrace even one of those. My guests this morning have found a way to not only embrace some really high-level values, the virtues, but also they found ways to help teach, educate, and to and help other people embrace these on a daily basis. And I just think it's terrific what they are doing. Dave and Dara Feldman in 2019 decided to launch Virtues Matter. It's an amazing, not just a website, but it's a whole movement. They work together full time to positively change as many lives as possible. Their aim was to bring an entrepreneurial mindset to bringing others joy, meaning, and purpose. And I'm so happy to have you both here on The Great Reboot. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tori. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Dara, you and Dave are joining us from outside of Washington, D.C., and there have got to be, we've seen, Washington, D.C. for a while was one of the hot spots for Corona, COVID-19, and the pandemic. And I guess I'm wondering, how are you both, either one of you can answer this, how did you, from the outset, how did you shift? I mean, let's talk about Virtues Matter, but also what you've done, because you had to change things up a little bit, I imagine, once mid-March hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, baby, do you want to go?
No, please. You start, sweetie. Go ahead.
Okay. So, first of all, it's a joy to be here. Troy, thank you for uplifting the positivity. And for me, what happened was I got to come home. So I have the honor, and Dave as well, of doing this work all over the world. And so March 12th, I flew back from Los Angeles, and I have had the joy of and the privilege of working from home. And I do say privilege because not everybody has that, right? And so I feel very blessed and grateful. And in addition, in my past career, being an educator, I was also a technology specialist. So we were very easily and quickly able to, instead of doing face-to-face work, bring it all online, which ended up making a reach that was more timely and easier and accessible for folks. Honey?
Dave, this whole Virtues Matter, I mean, this whole movement, I was reading about kind of the initial beginnings back in the 80s, I believe, and in British Columbia. And it seems to me that it's funny when I was reading about the background and how it started, that it feels very much, their description of what they were trying to do, it feels very much that it's these days, that it's 2020 and not the 1980s, that they were already feeling this. Could you give us a little bit, fill in exactly how it started, and then I'm so fascinated as to how you do this, how you run Virtues Matter. I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And Dara will probably be able to fill in some of the holes. Dara has been doing this work probably, 15 or so years, and she found it through her own path. And I've recently joined her as of January 2019. So it's been about a year and a half. And it started for us. We developed a mobile app called the Virtues Cards, which we'll share a little bit about. But, for me, it was just about changing people's lives. It was about bringing a positive mindset and bringing out the best in ourselves and in others. And the founders started this around 1990 or so. And there were 3 individuals who were based up in Canada on the West Coast, British Columbia. And they just saw all these tragic things going on with the children, having a lack of meaning and purpose. And they started this initiative. They started doing some research around the virtues. And the virtues they're not a religious-based thing. They're all about really bringing out the positive across all of us. They're universal positive qualities of character. And they researched.
Can you list those? I don't mean to interrupt you. But
I can go on for a while, but yeah,
lay
there's
them all
hundreds
out
of them.
for us.
Yeah, there's, accountability, acceptance, diligence, commitment, love, justice, compassion, kindness, honesty, zeal, wonder, awe, integrity. Dara's smiling at me over here like this is like a test to see how many.
Determination to get that list of 100 virtues out there.
Exactly.
Go.
Wow. Wait, there are 100 virtues? That's amazing.
There's actually more, but in one of they've put them into these beautiful cards that are practices that people can actually integrate into their lives. And one of the decks, which is the one that really resonates with us, has 100 different virtues, including resilience. I mean, courage. So some of them are really about, kind of bringing ourselves forward to be, in this moment. And others are very self-oriented, mindfulness, thoughtfulness. I mean, they're really about who we are as human beings. Humanity is one as well. So it's really about tapping into our best selves, understanding what those virtues are, and then applying them in different ways in our lives, even how we speak to ourselves and others. So the founders put this together, created this beautiful set of programs that's been recognized by the Dalai Lama. It's been honored by the United Nations. And there's a huge network around the world of facilitators who help teach 5 strategies on how to take this work and put this into your lives. And Dara will tell you her story, but she found this back in around 2005, and just this became her meaning and purpose for her life. And I watched how she changed other people's lives. I did a lot of work in environmental areas, and had a bit of a gap in my career. And I decided, what an opportunity. We became empty nesters to work together, and virtues has an interesting connotation sometimes. People either resonate with it or they don't, but we decided to call it Virtues Matter because they do. And we launched back last year, and it's really about working with others around the world to help elevate the strategies, but also help people be their best selves in so many different ways.
So when you launched, and Dara, I'll ask you this because I know you've been part of this movement for 15 years now. But when you launched last year, what did that look like? And I'm wondering, where do you travel, and who hires you, and how sustainable is this? I mean, it's great to go to a group session and you feel really good, and sometimes it's hard for people to keep that feel good buzz going. They go home and kids are screaming and fix dinner and clean the house and all these things. And now with COVID, not leaving the house and not having that opportunity to even get away from the screaming.
Yeah. Well, I honor your wisdom and discernment, knowing that's the reality of many people, and that a one and done workshop doesn't work. And I think for me, what attracted me to the Virtues Project really were the 5 strategies. Some of my past history had some trauma growing up. As a result, have been in Al-Anon for families of alcoholics. And I thought that everybody could benefit from the 12 steps. And then in 2005, I found the 5 strategies of the Virtues Project. It's not an add-on curriculum for educators. It's work that we can do in business. And it's about our personal, our familial, our work, and community development. And so I started using the strategies for my kindergartners. I was teaching kindergarten at Garrett Park. And then I would come home and I would rage all over our 12 and 15-year-old and go, okay, wait a minute. There's something wrong with this picture. And then I remembered that when the founders were on Oprah, Oprah said of the Family Virtues Guide that it's the instruction manual that our kids didn't come with. So I'm just wondering, people who are listening, did your kids come with instructions? Probably not, right? And so we have to get a driver's license, but we don't have to have a parenting license. And so this really gives us a guide for how to parent to be in a sane and joyful way, how to be in all right relationships. And So started using the work and the strategies in our home, and it transformed our family life as well. And so when Dave joined Virtues Matter, he got to bring in his passion and his experience. Though I had been doing this around the world primarily with educators, so school systems would hire me. Actually, Dave and I just did work in India with City Montessori School, the largest school in the world, 57,000 students. Trained their educators, trained their front office, and they're really deep into these strategies now and living these virtues on a daily basis. And so thank you for following the bouncing ball. My strength virtue is enthusiasm, and clearly a growth virtue is orderliness. And so when Dave joined with me at the beginning of last year, he got to bring his entrepreneurialism, his leadership skills, his focus on sustainability, and we brought that together with the virtues. And our son, who is in healthcare, got to bring that in through the lens of healthcare and helping to prevent compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma. And our daughter is also an educator, and so she uses the 5 strategies in social justice and race and equity. So it is a family affair, and yeah, people from all walks of life engage with us, and the way that it's sustainable is really through doing a daily virtues pick. So honey, I'm going to pass the talking piece over to you, and maybe we'll do a virtues pick right now so that people can feel and experience the transformational effect. And just want to warn everybody that if you don't want to be happier and healthier, more joyful and more purposeful, don't do a virtues pick ever, or every day at least, because it will not just change your language, it will change the way that you view the world, the way that you show up, and how you just live. Okay, honey. Oh, go ahead, Tori.
No, I was going to say,
I need to take a breath too.
I was going to say, bring it, because I think that what you're kind of promising and warning at the same time is something that every individual needs desperately. Before we go, give us your web information so that people have that, and then we'll check back in with that web info in a second.
Yeah, so it's www.virtuesmatter.com, and just add a /app on to find out more about the app itself, and we can share some of that. So it's
great.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find.
So the baton is with you now, Dave.
So here's, whoops, so you get that right here. So here's what the app is, and it's essentially, you have, these are the 100 virtues of one of the decks that we were sharing a moment ago. So you can actually pick one, or you can do a random shake and come up. So you can even see that responsibility comes. So I'll read that. This is what we do. This is what we call a virtues pick, and Dara and I do this daily with each other. We also do some of this online as well.
And so honey, let me just pause for 1 minute. So as Dave reads it, Tori, just think about how it resonates with you in your mind and heart, and then we'll invite you to share if you're willing.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and even for context, this is a way sometimes to open up a business meeting or a huddle. There's a lot of different ways to use this individually, but also within teams as well in the school world. So responsibility is the willingness to be accountable for our choices. Others can depend on us to do what we say we will do and give our best effort. We take on what is ours to do with commitment and reliability. It is important to discern what responsibility belongs to us and what belongs to others. Talking on another's spiritual work deprives us both. When we make mistakes, we have the courage to change for the better. We make amends instead of excuses. We have the ability to respond ably. So watch this. Oops. So the card flips over. So there's a back, and on the back there's a quote and a set of practices and an affirmation. So the quote here is, "My life is an influence on every life mine touches. Whether I realize it or not, I am responsible and accountable for that influence." Ron Barron. And then the practice of it. So this helps people to integrate this into their lives. What does it look like on a day-to-day basis? I'm accountable for what I do. Others can rely on me. I keep my agreements. I give excellence to all that I do. I focus on my part, not someone else's. I make amends for my mistakes. And the affirmation, I am thankful for the gift of responsibility. It helps me fulfill my purpose. So Tori, as Dara said, so how does responsibility speak to you in this great reboot, in this time that we're in?
Wow. Well, it's been an interesting time, and I will say that I know that I'm going to speak for Reggie, so co-producer, co-founder Reggie also, because I can say that both of us have had, and we've kind of stopped and talked about this. My life has been so full during COVID. It was almost as if the pause prompted this opportunity to fill in a huge way. So I've done a lot of volunteer work, and I started a kids garden here in our town
Beautiful.
to try to bring kids who are in tougher situations, hopefully help teach them how to plant, how to grow, how to weed, and then we'll be harvesting soon and hopefully teach them how to cook what they've helped to grow. Reggie has been working on a bunch of documentaries. And so for me, I guess my responsibility piece is I tend to, and this is something I have to work on, and I noticed behind Dara's head, there was something that I need to pay attention to, which is expect little or expect nothing. And I have too high of expectations of other people. I'm a giver, I give freely, and I get greatly disappointed. I have very high expectations of excellence from others, and I have no control over that. And yet, so these are pieces that I'm trying to work on, which is realizing you only have control over one person, and you can only expect your own excellence. It's a big lesson for me. I just have very high expectations of other people. So that's part of my responsibility, is to cut back on that. A lot of people are really having a hard time even just getting through the day. They're not flourishing during this time. So you have to have no expectations of others. I think that's a huge lesson. You're both kind of nodding and smiling.
Yeah, and you're smiling. Go ahead, Dare.
Yeah, so Tori, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for your generosity of service. Sounds like you're really doing some beautiful things. And also your commitment to excellence, right? And I'm also hearing some compassion that though you have those high expectations, the only person that you can be responsible is for yourself. And that in that place of compassion, knowing that right now, with the trauma and the other things that folks are dealing with, that perhaps a little bit of gentleness and understanding, compassion for them is something that another way that you can be generous. So I appreciate your openness in sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that all of this, and I can't stress it enough, I think COVID has hit everybody in such unique ways. And it's really interesting to hear people's stories. And, a lot of this show is trying to, we're highlighting the shifts, the pivots that people and businesses, organizations are making in order to survive this and hopefully thrive. But the main goal of this is to help other people see those who have done it successfully, and it can be a tool for them. Hopefully they'll look at different groups and say, oh my gosh, okay, I got this.
And so, go ahead, baby.
Yeah, and Tori, I'd love to honor you for your purposefulness, because it really is interesting in that there is a new opportunity. And talk about the reboot. We're doing a blog called The Great Reset right now. This is an opportunity to do things differently. And one of the lovely things, one thing I say is just beautiful, is people are actually moving back to a lot of local again. They're connecting into their neighborhoods. They're doing things to kind of, build community and, community gardens. I mean, I've heard more and more people, Dare and I do a lot of work online in groups. We're hearing more people are, finding themselves into gardening and outdoor yard work and things like that kind of connects them with the earth. And that really is great. And to be able to do that and give back to the young folks as well and connecting with people, that's an opportunity. I mean, that's part of the responsibility. We have to take that on and get out and do that. But you've obviously taken that on. I hear a lot of people are busier now than they've ever been before. Not everyone, but there are opportunities to reshape our lives right now. And those are really wonderful opportunities to kind of incorporate these kinds of things into our day-to-day activities.
I'm wondering how you both envision, things kind of unfolding from here. We're in this kind of time period in which we could either all be wearing masks and really help ourselves, or things could get really crazy and awful coming up in the winter. And as they're warning, CDC is warning, as long as we have the CDC able to discuss this stuff. But I guess I'm wondering from your standpoint, I'm assuming you're not going to be able to do much traveling. And is this going to be something that you embrace? And Dara, I know you love this piece that you're able to work from home. Are you able to have the same kind of impact doing your work this way, virtually?
So that's a really thoughtful question. And I think in some respects, maybe more so. And in other respects, not so much, right? I can't give the real hugs. However, we're doing work in the Virgin Islands right now. And so and what's unique about doing it online in the Virgin Islands is though it's one territory, there are 3 separate islands. And though we've done work down there in the past, it's usually work St. Thomas, then St. John, then St. Croix. But now we get to work in virtual circle with everybody and to really unite the VI. Same thing, did some work in India face-to-face in January, and then with the new school in, I guess it was April. And so I certainly was not going to schlep back down to India to do a 3-hour workshop, but to be able to get up, early in the morning to do that. So I think that in some ways we're able to make a greater impact. Also by being able to leverage the power of Zoom and technology, when appropriate, we can record it. So as a learner, I'm usually taking notes and looking, and I'm not really present, right? I'm like, what can I steal from all the other facilitators that I'm going to need in the future to enhance our work? And so by being able to record, it allows people the grace and the presence to just be. Then they can go back and watch the video for that ongoing deepening. And I also think that being able to put folks into breakout rooms and to be able to have people connect that way is helpful. And then finally, the chat feature, because some people are talk to learners, right? So you don't want me in your workshop because I'm sitting next to Dave talking, not trying to be disrespectful, but that's the way I process. Right. And by having the chat feature open, it's allowing people to process and to make it a much more interactive and a restorative way of being instead of top down, if that makes sense.
So it's more level. So it's everybody has a piece in it and then brings in the information through chat, and everybody has access to all the information. I think it's great.
Absolutely. So there's no back row, right?
Right.
And just to add one thing onto that, Tori, is that, it is interesting. We are going into kind of a new world, for lack of a better way of saying, everything is going to be very different. And, technology is going to be a big part of our lives. I mean, we had one call, we actually did a series of trainings, because it's not just about using technology, which is important, but it's how you use the technology. And we did a couple of courses called Zoom with Zeal. Zeal is a virtue. And the reason we did with Zeal is, okay, people were, first of all, trying to understand how to use Zoom. But second of all, you want to have interaction. There's simple things that you can do. You can change your names, for example, to be fun, or you can do breakout rooms, which people are now learning. You can use polling. You can use chat in certain ways. It's around the interaction. So, this new world is going to be about using technology, but it's also going to be about how we interact with each other in a lot of ways. So in a lot of ways, as Dara said, I mean, our business is changing. We typically try to find the positive way. I think everyone's trying to figure out what this looks like. We recognize that it will be different. So what will that different look like? And what it will be today will not necessarily what will it be tomorrow. So there's a flexibility and adaptability that goes with that. But it is hard. I mean, we're in a generation where, we didn't grow up with technology in the same way some of this next generation has. So we're really having to spend some time to understand the nuance of whether you're creating graphics and design, or whether you're using communication tools or social media. And, that's a reality. We accept that, and it sometimes can be frustrating, and sometimes can be really, exciting, but it's part of what this world looks like. And we're now part of a global community. And that's, as Dara was saying, that's really the most exciting part of it. So, and I did see Dara has something.
Well, Tori, I'm gonna call on self-discipline. Go ahead, Tori.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
so-
I was just going to ask you, but I want you to go back to that. But how many folks are part of your group? So it's the four of you in the family. Is there anybody else who's part of this group around the globe, or is it the four of you doing all of this global work yourselves?
So Virtues Matter is our company, and we are part of the Virtues Project movement, which is in over 140 countries. And as Dave said, honored by the United Nations, endorsed by the Dalai Lama in all areas of life. And so because it's a movement, our paper trail is not that accurate, but there are tens of thousands of facilitators around the world doing this.
Yeah, and they work in schools, they work in prisons, they work in yoga studios, they work with business. I mean, it really is a therapist, coaches, it's a whole broad scope. So we are connected. Now, the nice thing with what we've done is we've created this wonderful app. And now that this app is available, people around the world who are other facilitators are using our app. So it gives Dara and I an opportunity to connect with them and serve them in providing this tool to them in helping to grow their communities or support their communities in a lot of ways. So so that's pretty good. And we actually have a pleasure to work with the founders as well. It was a husband, wife, and a brother. Unfortunately, the brother passed away a number of years ago. But two of the founders are still retired, but still involved in different ways. And we're actually working with them on a variety of different projects right now, which is really kind of cool too, to be mentored with them and work with them as peers.
Yeah, go ahead, Dara.
The founders are Linda Kavalin Popoff, and she was a psychiatric social worker, a spiritual caregiver in hospice. She did suicide prevention in Harlem. She's also an author. And her husband, Dr. Dan Popoff, was a child psychologist, a scholar of the world's sacred traditions, and worked for NASA as well. And Linda's younger brother but he is now an angel. Actually, there he is. I don't know if you can see him over my shoulder. John Kavalin, he was a Disney Imagineer. And so it was the three of them that co-founded the Virtues Project. And humbly, in 2005, when I was honored as Disney's Outstanding Elementary Teacher of the Year, it was in Disney where I found out about the Virtues Project. Coincidence?
Oh, wow.
I don't think it was a coincidence. And then, short story is I ended up volunteering my time to the founders as Director of Education for 7 years because I believed in this work so much. They didn't have the money to pay me. It's not like we had the money to pay me, but the work is just such meaningful work. And then the founders retired and asked me and three other women to turn it into a nonprofit. And we created the Virtues Project International Association. I was the founding chair, not a chair, I'm an educator. I love being of service and doing this work and teaching it. So I removed myself from the chair and recently tagged Dave in because he's doing a lot of work with the board and the nonprofit. And so it really is a labor of love for the facilitators around the world.
Well, it sounds like, you're doing so well. I want to read a couple of quick reviews that you've received on the Virtue cards and the app. I'm assuming that that's all in the same collective space. So this person wrote, "Life changer. It's like an angel whispering in your ear each day as to how to live a better life. I read one card at night and then read the same card again in the morning for reinforcement. I really like the non-scroll interface." Another one says, "Perfect tool for promoting mindfulness and recentering when stressed. I think this app is great for anyone who's looking for inspiration or guidance on how to be a better person." And I challenge anyone who's not trying to be a better person. Isn't everybody trying to be a better person?
We would hope so, yeah. We would like to think so, yes.
Thank you. And then one other tool, well, we have many tools and strategies. I wrote a book several years ago about the Virtues Project, primarily in education, but it's good for other folks' families as well. And on our website, you can actually access the PDF and the audio for free. And the name of the book is the heart of education, bringing joy, meaning, and purpose back to teaching and learning, because we used to have it at one time.
Wow. So why doesn't every school district require teachers to each have their own copy of that? It seems like it should be kind of a mandatory read.
Well, thank you. That's really thoughtful. It's really a little bit my story, and then weaving in resources from social emotional learning, character development, race and equity, mindfulness, trauma responsiveness. And so I did record it, because who has time when you're an educator to read a book?
Right.
So for those of you who are listening, if you don't want to listen to me squeak for 9 hours, you can slow it down. And then it'll just take you 11 hours to get through it.
Well, I don't find you squeaking or offensive at all. So I think I speak for at least a couple people out there. Come on, Dara.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's next? I mean, what would you like to, through this, moment, what do you encourage people to do today? What can they do to kind of get on that path of being better people, or treating themselves better? And then I because I find that was so interesting on your website, that you say that it's really important to treat yourself as well as you would a good friend. Mm-hmm. And I think so many of us miss that piece, don't we?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you mind if I answer
that?
Go
ahead, honey. Go ahead.
So kind of looking at a macro. So I've had a unique opportunity to work with the founder, Linda Kaplan-Popoff, to write a blog. And the blog is A Whole New World, 7 Virtues for the Great Reset. And part of that is talking about how, as we go forward, there are opportunities to really be our best selves in doing that. And what are the virtues that we want to call on to do that? And we wrote one about justice and resilience, gratitude, compassion. Creativity is the next one coming out. So it's a series about really integrating the virtues in our lives, both at a broad, international, global level, and at the individual level. And then Dara and I are launching a campaign coming up to help kind of really help each person to use that on a day-to-day basis. She said doing a daily virtues pick is really one of those things that can help change your life. It just, you just start to understand these kinds of concepts more deeply, and it becomes who you are. And we're starting a campaign. I hate to commit to a time, but it was sometime in the fall, probably in the September timeframe, called Share the Love. And love is language of virtues everywhere, or every day, or everyone. And it's an opportunity to do a virtues acknowledgement of somebody or something about the positive that you see in them. And, the one thing about the app is I showed you those cards. You can share it. You can share it by text, email. You can post it to social media. And it's a beautiful way. And we can even put a little attachment on to show them how they can share it to others. So there can be like a, share it forward type of tool that works with that. So the goal is, and Dara, you saw Dara did a lovely acknowledgement before. You acknowledge somebody for that virtue, and it just uplifts people. It's really positive in that way. So that's one of the things that we really want to do about, really helping getting the app out there. It was priced very low. It's a one-time download fee because we want to see it go viral. We do a lot of work internationally. The app is really about, kind of our give back to the community. But that's where we want to see that get out there and get the virtues more broadly accepted.
Yeah, and baby, I really appreciate your generosity of time and spirit, focusing on co-creating this Share the Love campaign. And while we're waiting for that to launch, Tori, people can do the plan. And this is an acronym using Dave's creativity. And the plan stands for P. Pick daily. So you download the Virtues Cards app. It's a free download of the sample card, right? And then you do a pick. So P is pick daily. L is look for the good in yourself and others, right? So look for the good in self and others. And then A is acknowledge and appreciate often. So you're looking for that good, and you're not just thinking about it, but when you acknowledge it, it reinforces it. And it also raises our vibration and makes us feel happier and healthier. So acknowledge and appreciate often. And the last one is N. Notice the teachable moments. So when we're not living our highest and best selves, instead of beating ourselves up, going, "Ugh, I can't believe," fill in the blank, we just notice. And perhaps we say to ourselves, maybe I should have been more mindful, taken a breath before I reacted, and then I would have been able to respond. So plan, pick daily, look for the good in self and others, acknowledge and appreciate often, and notice the teachable moments. And when we get into that routine of doing a virtues pick, here's where this disclaimer, I'm going to say it one more time. It will, in some ways, ruin your life, because when you go take a walk in nature, make sure you carry a bag with you, because you will bend down and pick up the trash that you see, because you will realize that it is your responsibility to take care of Mother Earth. It is our responsibility to be the change that we wish to see. And the virtues cards are a great reminder of that.
There are people who are watching who will say, are these people for real? Are they really this happy? And I want you both to say, I mean, truly, you're praising one another, you're loving on one another, you're finding it's these great tools that you have. Is this real? And did it take a while to get to this place in your relationship?
May I jump in, honey? I'm going to ask for forgiveness. Thank you for your patience. So here's the true story. Yes, we're really this happy. Are we, or yes, we're really this joyful. Are we happy all the time? Most of the time. Is it because of the virtues? I can speak my truth. Absolutely. It has totally transformed my life. And when I found out about the Virtues Project 15 years ago, I shared it with Dave. And it took some of us a little bit longer. So I called on my patience. You called on your detachment. No, I'm just kidding. But I have to say that since we have been working on the Virtues Matter together for the past year and a half, our relationship has strengthened. I've watched Dave in the way that he interacts with folks. He's always been super friendly and just an amazing man, but he's more compassionate and shows some of his love and service in much more profound ways. We were doing a workshop in September before COVID. Sorry, is this okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we were in a circle, and Dave's mom was in the circle. And at the end, she said, yeah, he's a lot nicer now. Or, like I've seen him change. And even our children have seen him change. And I feel like in the correspondence with the emails that he's been sending as our CEO, Chief Everything Else Officer, and I'll let Dave speak for himself, but putting the virtues out there, the way that it's received and the way that he is received is just taken in a much more meaningful and joyful manner. Honey?
Yeah, no, Tori, we are, we're going through a lot of change like everybody else right now. And we clearly have up days and down days, and it has, there are moments, but we really have relied on being positive. It's what we've decided to do as our work, but it's kind of who we really are. And, I'm pretty sarcastic. I can be, I have an edge sometimes. And, doing this work has made me a little bit more aware of that. But I have to say, when you do this on a regular basis, I mean, we have fun. It's, you kind of integrate it into your everyday. It's like I am more mindful. But I'm also more courage. I have more courage. It's not all the touchy-feely. I mean, really, perseverance. I mean, running a startup in a business during a pandemic is not easy. I mean, we have, endurance, forbearance, steadfastness, perseverance. I mean, those are some of your more, I do this, Dara laughs at me because I just kind of get that, we're going to charge forward. It's really balancing all of those different, skill sets, soft skills in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So I do find that we work on this, and we're pretty high energy. I mean, that's who we are as well. So it kind of gives us a focal point for being energetic. And
I appreciate your honesty, though, because it makes you both more approachable too. That people will say, okay, they didn't just float down on a cloud from the ethers or heaven. So thank you. I really appreciate that, and it makes it more attainable. That people will say, okay, they did it, and let me give it a go, and just to kind of chip away a little bit at a time. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Well, thank you for your thoughtful virtues acknowledgement. You used the virtue of honesty, and you gave us the evidence of what we were doing. And honestly, if that's all we did was change our language to identify the virtue and the evidence, that's world changing. And what we focus on expands. And so we've chosen to focus on the virtues. And they're high vibration, they're high frequency words. Everything is energy.
Mhm.
And so shame and fear and all of that, it's low vibration. It takes our energy out. And when we can focus on optimism and resilience and strength and put those into practice in very tangible ways, that's how we can, especially during this great reset in a positive way and use this great teachable moment to make ourselves and the world a better place.
Before we wind things up here, I do want to say this is not a political show, but your timing is very interesting on this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about words matter, it is, given the situation we're in right now, and a lot of people are engaging in using those lower register words, and the vibrations just aren't there, as you were just describing. How hopeful are you? How confident are you that this type of a movement could turn things around? We're looking at right now trying to, stop COVID and manage COVID. Can you manage this vibration going up? How is this something that can take off before November? Just curious.
So I'm optimistic. I think that part of what we are committed to doing and why we made the app is to help virtues go viral, right? And to give people the energy that they need to really be mindful of how to uplift humanity and how to unite humanity. And I also believe that as a Baha'i, the old world order, the old systems that were created before that left many people out, right? Systems of oppression that we're seeing are breaking down. And though there's pain in the breaking of the old systems, we are now freed and liberated to come together as the oneness of humanity, to use our virtues to balance equality of men and women and of all races, even though there's only one race, the human race, right? To get rid of extreme poverty and wealth so that everybody is taken care of. And I could go on and on, but I'm going to call myself disciplined. And I absolutely do think that the virtues are those tools and the transferable skills that are going to help to unite us and to move us forward in a very positive way.
Dave, did you have any last
Sure.
comment you'd like to make about that?
I think that we're in a period of just profound change right now. And I think that everything that we once thought we knew is going to be different. And we're, whether it's being an American, whether it's being a citizen of a world, whether it's how we run our lives, how we use technology, I think we're in a lot of change. And, I have a mix of optimism, pessimism. I try to lean on the optimism side. And I think we have an opportunity, as Dara, I think, said earlier, we can only control what we can control, we have choices that we can make. So we choose to make the choices that are more on the positive right now, and try to influence and support people on their own journeys and where they are. So I do think that there's an opportunity to really help create a positive world. I think that there are a lot of people out there. I've been doing some research for the Share Love campaign. There are hundreds of groups that are out about doing things in positive ways, whether it's industry specific or it's just generic quotes of the day kind of thing. So there is a movement and there's a demand for looking for these kinds of things out there. So really just tapping into those, limiting yourself to the news sometimes. I mean, I'm a news junkie, but it can take you into a different headspace sometimes. So, allowing yourself to think in a positive way is really important. So the choices we make right now are good. And, I'm cautiously optimistic. But I do think that there's an opportunity right now where we're reshaping things. And in some ways, what an exciting time to be alive. And that doesn't take away from all the difficulties people are going through right now. But there are real opportunities. And we've gone through our own challenges. This has not been an easy few months, but we've also looked at it in a positive way.
And maybe I do want to add one last thing. I'm sorry, going back to the responsibility card, right? And I'm just looking around the screen. And what I've come to understand over the past several years is unearned privilege, being a white woman. And so I think that part of what we can do is start to understand and leverage our unearned or earned privilege. I don't have earned privilege, I have unearned privilege, but that those people of privilege and power can begin to be humble and to be of service and to start to, or to continue to learn and figure out how we can really serve in a united way.
Virtues matter. Dara and Dave Feldman, I can't thank you enough for being our guests here on The Great Reboot. Keep up the fantastic work that you're doing.
Thank you, Tori. It's been a pleasure being on the show, and we're real excited to stay in touch with you. Thanks for all the service that you're providing everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate your generosity of service to humanity, being committed to doing this, and your kindness speaking with us today.